Daily Tanya reading. We are in chapter 16. This is the Tanya reading for in the Chabad Lubavitch learning program. They have certain quota of learning they do per day. They have the daily Chumash with Rashi, the Tehillim, the Psalms. They have their portion of Tanya, and then they have Rambam and daily mitzvah, and then they have Hayom Yom. It's like that's a daily learning program in the Chabad world. So I've been doing that since the Alter Rebbe's yard site, which was yesterday. And so they're holding in chapter 16, Perek Tezayin, of Tanya, Likutei Amarim Tanya. This then is the important principle regarding the divine service of the Benoni. Benoni means like an average person, like a middle, not so great, not so bad, kind of in just an average person. העיקר הוא למשול לשלוט על הטבע שבחלל השמאלי על ידי השם אמיר לנפש האלוקית שבמוח ולשלוט על הלב. Okay. This is an important principle for the service of the divine service of the Benoni. The essential thing is to govern and rule the nature that is in the left part of the heart by means of the divine light that illuminates the divine soul abiding in the brain, and to rule the desires of the heart. Okay. כשמזבוינן במוח בגדולת אין סוף ברוך הוא להוילד במינס רוח דעת ויראת השם במוחוי ליויס סור מירה דרייסו ודרבנון ואפילו איסור קל של דבריהם חס ושלום יעז השם בלבו בחלל הימוני החשיקה וחביל דווקא בו בגיעו מעצמו דרייסו ודרבנון The mastery of one's nature and desires is achieved when he meditates in his mind on the greatness of the blessed, infinite God, so as to create through his understanding a spirit of knowledge and fear of God in his mind. This knowledge and fear will cause him to turn away from the evil condemned by the Torah or by our sages, even from a minor rabbinic prohibition, heaven forbid. Contemplation on God's greatness will bring about also a love of God which will reveal itself in the right part of his heart, the seat of the godly soul's emotional faculties, with a longing and desire to cleave to him by fulfilling the precepts of the Torah and of the rabbis, and the study of Torah which is equivalent to them all. שגם אם ישיכלו ברוח בינתו מסגל להוריד אבס השם והתגלות ליבו שיהיו ליבו בוער ירש ואש וחמץ וחפיצה וחשיקה ותשוקה מרוגשת בלב רבו רגב המסותרת במוח ותענו בליבו. Furthermore, one must know an additional principle in the Benoni service of God. Even if one's intellect and understanding are incapable of producing a revealed love of God in his heart, to make it burn as it ought with fiery flames, with a desire and a longing and a passion manifestly felt in the heart to cleave to God. Instead, the love is hidden in his mind and in the recesses of his heart. מפני היוס המוחין שלו ונפש רוח נשמה שלו מבחינת איבו והלם תוך התבונה ולא מבחינת לידה והתגלות כידוע ליונכן The reason for this inhibition is that this person's intellect and nefesh and ruach and neshama derive from the so-called ibor, the conception and concealment within the supernal understanding, and not from the stage of Leda, birth, and revelation, as is known to the students of the Kabbalah. Dehainu, she'alev mivim ruach chochma u'bina shebemocho. This means that the heart comprehends with the spirit of wisdom and understanding in the brain. Meaning, instead of being excited with the love of God, as it ought to be, the heart merely experiences an understanding of Gedulat Ein Sof Baruch Hu Nechula Kamei Kala Chashiv Mamash Asher Al Ken Yat Elohim Barach Shintichna Lav Nevesh Kol Chai Lidabek Yikoleh Me'oro. Okay, this means that the heart comprehends with the spirit of wisdom and understanding in the brain, instead of being excited with the love of God, as it ought to be. The heart merely experiences an understanding of the greatness of the blessed infinite God, before whom all else is not, for which reason it is fitting and due unto him, blessed be he, that the soul of every living thing should pine for him, to cleave to, and become absorbed in his divine light. V'gam nafsho v'rucho asher b'kirbo kach yatale niyot galot ela b'chashika v'chomizan sed minar tekan hu aguf ledav gabo. It is likewise fitting for his own soul, the nefesh and ruach within him, to languish for him with a fervent desire to leave their sheath, meaning the body, which surrounds and conceals the soul like a sheath, in order to cleave to him. Rak shibal korchon chayot hena toch haguf usurot bo kalmanot chayot. So intensely his thoughts continue, should his nefesh and ruach long for God, that only against their will do they dwell in the body. They are bound to it like deserted wives, literally living widows who are bound to their husbands and are forbidden to remarry as long as the husbands who left them are alive. כי אם כאשר תפיסה ומתלבשת בתורה מצוותיה, כמשל מחבקת המלך הנזכר לאל. In their present state, their thought cannot grasp God at all, except when it grasps and invests itself in the Torah and His commandments. By studying Torah and observing His commandments, one grasps God's will and His wisdom, which are one within God Himself, as illustrated previously by the example of one who embraces the king. ואיז לזאת יעתה להן לחבקו בכל לב ונפש מאומיות. דהיינו כי מתי המצווס במעשה ודיבור ומחשבה שהיא השגת בדידתו כנזכר לאל. הנה כשעמק לה בעניין זה ותעלומות תאונות לי במוחו ופיו לליבו שווין, שמקיים כן בפיו כפי אשר נקבע בתבואת ליבו מוחו. דהיינו, להיות בתורה אז השם חפצו ויגע ביומם ולילה בפיו, וכן ידיים ושאר איברים. יקיים עם המצוות כפי מה שנקבע בתבואת ליבו ומוחו. הרי תבונה זו מתלבש במעשה דיבור מחשבת התורה מצוותיה, להיות להם בחינת מוחין וכינות דגתפין לברך הלילה. Okay. Where were we here? All the above thoughts pass through his mind and heart and lead him to resolve that it is therefore fitting and proper for them, for his nefesh and ruach, to embrace God with all their heart and might. This means, in a practical sense, to fulfill the 613 commandments in act, speech, and thought, the thought being the comprehension and knowledge of the Torah, as explained above in the previous chapters, that through Torah and the commandments one grasps God himself, so to speak. Consequently, when the Beinoni ponders the subject in the recesses of his heart's and mind's understanding, and his mouth and heart are in accord, meaning what his heart feels finds full expression in speech, in that he fulfills with his mouth in his speech the resolve of his mind and his heart's understanding, namely, to direct his desire toward God's Torah, meditating on it day and night in oral study, and when his hands and other bodily organs too carry out the commandments, as was resolved in his mind and heart's understanding. When he implements his resolution, this tevuna, the intellectual emotion, which cannot properly be called love or fear, but tevuna, literally understanding, is clothed in the act, speech, and thought of the Torah and its commandments, providing them with intellectual power, vitality, and wings that enable them to soar on high. Let's see here. What do you have left? Aki'ilu. אז when נתחילו רחימו ממש, אשר יגלו ליבו מחביצה, יחג'יר ושוגע ורעש מליבו, ונאמר דמי על השם ממני נמרי, לבדו ליבו נזכר לאל. וידבון הזו שמות ודלו בליבו, היא המייתו להסכם. ולולי שהיה מתבונן בתבון הזו, לא היה עוסק בהם כלל, אלא משחק בו לבד, וגם אם הוא מצביל מלימודו, בטבעו, אף על פי כן האוהב את גופו יותר בטבעו. Okay. Where were we? Consequently, when the Beinoni ponders the subject in the recesses of his heart's mind and mind's understanding, and his mouth and heart are in accord with what his heart feels, finds some expression in speech, and that he fulfills with his mouth and his speech the resolve of his mind's and heart's understanding, namely to direct desire toward God's Torah, meditating on it day and night in oral study, and when his hands and other bodily organs too carry out the commandments, as was resolved in his mind and heart's understanding, then when he implements his resolution, his tevuna, the intellectual emotion, which cannot properly be called love or fear, but tevuna, literally understanding, is clothed in the act, speech, and thought of the Torah, and his commandments, providing them with intellectual power, vitality, and wings that enable him to soar on high. The love and fear referred to as tevuna, although not heartfelt devotions, nevertheless serve as wings for one's Torah and mitzvot in the same way as if he practiced them with real fear and love, as revealed in the heart, in which case he would have performed them with desire, fervor, passion that are felt in the heart and soul, thirsting for God due to the flaming love of God in his heart, as explained above, that a revealed love of God elevates one's Torah and mitzvot by lending warmth and vitality to one's actions. Okay. For it is this tevuna in his mind and in the recesses of his heart that leads him to engage in the Torah and mitzvot, as explained above. Had he not meditated on this tevuna, he would not have occupied himself with them at all, but with his physical needs alone. Even if he is an assiduous student by nature, nevertheless he naturally loves his body more. Okay?